Hi, everybody. Dan Illman and Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day, presented by DRF Bets for Wednesday, October the 12th, race number 7 at Keeneland. It is a first level allowance race for 2-year-olds, and it's a full field at that. They're going to go a mile and a 16th. Let's take a look at this field. Again, it is an overflow field, 12 in the body of the race, 13 counter spy on the also eligible list. Mike, in taking a first pass in this race, I have a feeling that the connections of these horses are still trying to figure out what they have. Do they have a horse that's going to continue to go through their conditions and wind up in stakes, or do they have a horse that's eventually going to sort of settle in the claiming ranks?
That's mostly where we are with most 2-year-olds at this point, Dan, because just about every 2-year-old is still lightly raced at this point. They get started later and later. Most of these horses only have, a couple of starts to their name so far. So yeah, I'm sure their connections are still trying to sort out where they belong.
Every horse in the body of this race either exiting a maiden win or dropping out of stakes competition. Let's look at the Timeform US pace projector. Big field, full of 2-year-olds, several of them stretching out in distance. I agree with Timeform US. I believe it's going to be a fast pace. Carmel Road, if he runs here, and I have a feeling he might, he'll be wheeling back on only 3 days rest after challenging them in the Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity, where he just tried to push a fast pace from an impossible post position. Maybe he's just quicker than these.
Yeah, I'm assuming they'll be using his speed here from post 8. He drew into that Breeders' Futurity over the weekend as an AE, had the far outside post, couldn't make the lead and got very tired. But he, earned a very solid speed figure when he broke his maiden 2 starts back.
Now, keep in mind at Keeneland, in a mile and a 16th races on the dirt, there is a short stretch. The first wire is the finish, so maybe that helps speed horses a little bit, even if the pace is fast. We'll begin our analysis with the number 1 Forbidden Secret. He's stretching out around 2 turns for the first time for trainer Todd Pletcher off of a dominating victory in one of those maiden auction races at Belmont at the Big A. Let's watch that performance. Third lifetime start, 7/8 of a mile. And Forbidden Secret just really didn't take any prisoners here as the big favorite. He was ridden as a favorite should be ridden, aggressively from the gate, and he widens in the stretch.
Yeah, this was actually a pretty impressive win for this horse. He was a very short price. He did take some pressure on the lead, but he was always under a confident ride from IRAD. He won this race very easily. I don't know that he beat the greatest field in the world, though, Dan. He's still got a lot to prove as far as I could tell. His first 2 starts at Saratoga, I thought they were kind of a mixed bag. I thought he actually ran better than it looks in his debut, even though he wound up finishing 5th. And I didn't much care for his performance second time. I thought that was a race he could have won. He wasn't good enough.
But I do like that Todd has gradually stretched him out in distance in every start. He has improved his buyer in every start. And breaking from the inside post, he'll be aggressively ridden again by Irad to get a forward position, if not the outright lead. The 2 is Bourbon Spirit, who was a debut winner sprinting at Ellis Park over a muddy track. And then they stretched him out in the Sapling, a 2-turn race. And I'm curious as to your thoughts on that race, Mike, because the pace was reasonable, but it was also contested. At Bourbon Spirit, it looked like it put away the 2 pace pursuers, only to be run down on the stretch by a promising Pletcher runner, Lost Ark. But it looked like Bourbon Spirit was getting very tired in the last 16th of a mile of that race.
He was getting very tired because the horse that he just held second over, Major Dude, was a horse who was initially contesting the pace with him. It looked like Bourbon Spirit had put that horse away, and then he couldn't get away from that horse at the end. I still thought he ran pretty well last time, Dan. I mean, that was a contested pace in there. He was part of it, and he is the one of the 3 of them that were up there early. He's the one who finished best in there. I really liked his career debut as well over a wet track. I think this horse is good, and he's bred for distance. So even though he looked like he was getting tired last time, I don't think stretching out even further is going to hurt this horse.
And maybe he relaxes a little bit more with blinkers coming off, and he's dropping in class. The 3rd place finisher from that last race came back to win the Grade 2 Pilgrim on turf with a 76 buyer speed figure. The number 3 is Frank's Honor, who successfully stretched out around 2 turns at Churchill Downs last time out. He had a pretty easy early lead that day. You look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race, it's expected to be a lot faster than what Frank's Honor had to deal with. He looked good winning. This is a tougher test.
That's what I think too. I don't know that I necessarily think he's going to be favored in here. He is the morning line favorite. I guess we'll see how that plays out. If he takes money in here, Dan, he's just the kind of horse I'll probably stand against in here. He did earn a figure last time, but did so with a really soft trip. And I just thought his first 2 starts were okay.
And in those first two starts, albeit going shorter, he did get beat by a couple of these horses. Traffic Master is the number 4, and this horse improved by leaps and bounds. Second time out for trainer Mark Casse. He was 46-1 in his dirt debut, and he beat a couple of next out winners that day. He did some good things, Mike, winning that race by a nose. He earned a figure of 73, and maybe he's just coming to hand at the right time. He's Gabriel Saez's first call.
Yeah, that's possible for sure. That this horse is just he just really took a little bit of a step forward there, second time out, and he could take another one here, Dan. I thought his maiden win last time was okay. I thought overall he got a pretty good trip in there, and I just thought he was more game than anything else winning. I wasn't blown away by the performance, but I'll give him the credit he deserves for fighting it out late.
I thought he was a little bit green as well. He was in between horses. He had to be really urged when a horse ranged up outside of him and he was still in between on the second turn. Looked like he was wandering a bit in the stretch, and then he almost blew it in the final 16th, final 100 yards or so. But all in all, a good performance and a step in the right direction. The 5 Redeemer has a beautiful pedigree. He's by Curlin. He's a half-brother to Good Samaritan, a Grade 2 stakes winner on both turf and dirt. He's a half-brother to another graded stakes winner, a dirt router in Western Canada. And Redeemer, as we see here in his dirt debut, his second lifetime start at Ellis Park, likes dirt just fine. I like that he was able to show a little bit more early interest to stay close to this slow pace.
Yeah, I like that too. It's worth noting though that he did have to be ridden early in this race just to keep up. So he doesn't look like necessarily a horse who wants to be aggressively handled, but he managed to get the right trip in here. And I just really like the way that he finished the end of this race. Dan, he got himself into the clear late, and he had a pretty easy time closing that race down. I mean, he won it by less than a length officially, but you could see on the replay there, it was a much easier victory than that.
The number 6 in here is Moe's Treasure. And Moe's Treasure is a Mr. Lucas special. He's a 2-year-old. He's run 8 times. He's hearty. And he scored last time out. I had a feeling he was exposed a little bit going into that last race at Churchill Downs. Something tells me he caught the right field, but he finished it off the right way. And for the first time in his career, he got a figure.
Yeah, I mean, it took him a while to get there, but he finally did take that step forward. And I think you just have to respect that he's got, pretty good tactical speed as well. The question now is, it does feel like this is a much tougher field than the one that he just beat. So can he step up, face some better horses, do it around 2 turns, and then do it in the face of what's supposed to be a much faster pace?
He is bred a little bit to get a little bit more ground. He is a half to a horse that was Grade 2 place routing on synthetic. I think that runner finished 4th in the Preakness. Maybe this horse just needed some time to figure it out. He'll be a good price yet again. American Blaze is the number 7, and he ran off the screen in his career debut at Ellis Park. You rarely win 7 furlong races by 17 lengths. He did it. They tested him in the sapling last time out. I thought that track was a little speed favoring, but Lost Art came from out of it to win. The pace was contested, and this horse just didn't do that much.
That's how I thought. That's what I thought too, Dan. I mean, his career debut obviously was impressive visually, and I guess the 71 buyer that he earned there is fine. You can be forgiving of the sapling, I guess, just because it was a significant step up in class. But I'm with you. He just, took some money in that race, had a good trip, didn't do much running.
The 8 Carmel Road, it'll be interesting to see if he runs back in this spot because he would be coming back on 3 days rest. He ran in the Breeders' Futurity. He had a terrible post. He chased a fast pace. He tired. He has won around 2 turns. He does have good early speed. He has Baffert in his corner, and these Baffert horses are usually very aggressively handled out of the gate.
Right. You don't see Baffert, wheeling horses back on short rest that often. So I suppose that could be, something to worry about in here. But I think you have to take this horse's chances very seriously. If he runs here, Dan, is that maiden win 2 starts back. Not only did he get a figure, just won that race as easy as could be right on the lead.
Confidence Game's the number 9 going out for Keith DeZormo, and Keith's horses usually improve after 3, 4, 5 races, and they can pop at big prices. This horse did win second out sprinting. They ran him in the Iroquois last time out, kind of passed a few tired horses in the stretch. I'm not sure what I think of the Iroquois thus far. I'm not sure what I think of the East Coast and Midwest 2-year-olds, but Confidence Game is just the kind of horse that's going to need a fast pace, and he's going to need to improve his fig.
I can see him running better here. I'm with you. The Iroquois is not my favorite race that I've seen so far this year. I don't know how hard I want to be on Confidence Game for that race. He was, a little bit wide up the backstretch in that race and just sort of going up and down at the end. I'll say this about him. I don't really think I want to bet him in here, Dan. I did like his maiden win 2 starts back. I know it was a 6 furlong race. He had good speed in that race, and I thought he won very easily.
Of the horses coming out of the Iroquois, the horse that placed best, and I thought the horse that ran the best, is the 10, Hayes Strike, a son of Connect. He's a half to senior investment who was a long-winded graded stakes performer that finished third in the Preakness a few years back. He was up close to that solid pace in the Iroquois first time 2 turns, and he stayed on pretty well for fourth.
Yeah, he didn't run poorly. Again, it's not a race that I love, but he didn't run poorly at all in the Iroquois. Very easy win right up on the pace, breaking his maiden 2 starts back. This is class relief for him. It feels like even though he's dropping out of a grade 3, he could get lost in the shuffle a little bit here, and that might make you want to keep an open mind about him.
Big test for the number 11, Nitro Man, coming down from Belterra Park. We're going to watch his impressive career debut. This is a maiden special weight going 3/4 in Belterra, and Nitro Man went to the front from the rail. He extends. He wins very easily. The pace wasn't very fast, but he earned a 70 Beyer speed figure, which is competitive with several of the other horses in this race. The problem is now he has to stretch out from a lousy post position against better horses in a tougher pace scenario.
Yeah, all those things are true. A lot working against him. He's also 20-1 on the morning line. And as you can see there from the replay, Dan, listen, it was at, a debut at sort of a more minor league track. I don't know what more you could have wanted to see from this horse, though. He had easy speed. They did take a run at him around the turn. He easily held that horse off, and he won for fun.
Blinkers on for the 12, Zyce, who was 103-1 in the Iroquois, showed brief speed, tired. He's going to have to do better. The post doesn't help. He's 30-1 on the morning line.
He's a big price. He is dropping out of 2 stakes races, though. And prior to that, he broke his maiden at a big price, and he did it, in relatively solid fashion. I mean, this horse, it's not like he's impossible to make a case for in here at a big price. He's got a lousy post.
If there is a scratch, the 13 Counter Spy gets in for Mark Casse. He is well bred. He is also slow from 3 lifetime starts. These 2-year-olds can improve by leaps and bounds from a buyer's standpoint, but he would be breaking from a tough post, and he'd have to improve by a lot.
Yeah, he's going to have to take a step forward. He drew such a bad post, though, if he gets into this race. So he has a lot to overcome, aside from his slow speed figures.
I think you should go shopping on the tote board for this race. Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for all the latest DRF video opportunities. Top pick time for our Wednesday race of the day. It's a competitive event. Redeemer has the pedigree. I think he's still learning. And I think this time around, Flavien Prat's going to take him back, recognizing that there's a fast pace, and this horse should come rolling late.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I mean, you already brought up the fact that this is run over that short stretch there with the first wire, Dan. I don't love that if they're going to take him too far back in here, but I think they could do that if they wanted to, because they had to use him pretty hard to keep up close last time. I still like the way that he finished.
Again, I want a price in here. Moe's Treasure finally put it all together last time out against a weaker bunch. He does have the tactical speed, I think, to sit in the second or third flight, maybe get the jump on true closers. Horses like Redeemer, perhaps the wire comes just in time. But he must improve, and he must stay at his morning line odds of 12-1 before I consider him. 5281 for Mike, 6324 for me. It's the Wednesday race of the day presented by DRF Bets, the 7th at Keeneland. Good luck.